What if I told you there was an empire so powerful it conquered China, Persia, Russia, and the Middle East, all within a single century? An empire that erased entire civilizations from the map. An empire that no wall could stop, no army could slow, and no kingdom could survive. What if I told you this empire stood at the edge of Europe with nothing left to stop them? And then something happened that no military force in history could have ever arranged. That empire was the Mongols. And this is the story of the greatest near conquest in human history. Genghis Khan rose from the grasslands of Central Asia with nothing. No cities, no wealth, no power, and built the most feared military machine the world had ever seen. His soldiers were faster, more disciplined, and more psychologically terrifying than anything Europe or Asia had faced before. By the time his grandsons took over, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the borders of Eastern Europe. Every professional army that stood against them was destroyed. Every great city either surrendered or burned. They were not just winning wars, they were ending civilizations.
In 1241, Batu Khan turned his army west. Europe had no idea what was coming. Poland fell within days. At the Battle of Legnica, European knights, the finest warriors on the continent, were destroyed by Mongol horse archers, who struck, vanished, and struck again before anyone could respond. Then came Hungary. King Bela IV assembled over 60,000 soldiers. The Mongols had half that number. It made absolutely no difference. At the Battle of Mohi, Mongol General Subutai executed a perfect overnight flanking maneuver, surrounded the entire Hungarian army, and cut them apart in the open fields. The king barely escaped with his life. In just weeks, Poland crushed, Hungary in ruins, Austria next. The road to Paris, Rome, and London.
Europe's priests called it a miracle from God. It was not a miracle. Far away in Mongolia, the supreme ruler of the entire empire, Ogedei Khan, son of Genghis, had died. Under Mongol law, every general and prince had to return home immediately for the Kurultai, the great council to choose the next ruler. No exceptions. Not even for the general standing 1 week away from the greatest conquest in history. Batu Khan had no choice. He turned around and left. But the Mongols were not finished with Europe. They came back in 1259, destroying Baghdad, ending the Islamic Golden Age, and pushing west again toward Egypt. This time, they were stopped not by politics, but by the Egyptian Mamluk army at the Battle of Ain Jalut in 1260. The first time in history the Mongols were defeated in open battle. The age of total Mongol invincibility was over.
But even beyond politics and one man's death, Europe itself was fighting back in ways the Mongols had never encountered before. The Mongol army was an instrument perfectly designed for one specific environment, the open steppe. Flat, endless grassland stretching for thousands of miles, where cavalry could move at full speed in any direction. That environment produced the greatest horse archers in human history. Western Europe was the complete opposite. Dense forests blocked movement and killed visibility. Narrow mountain passes choked entire armies into single-file lines where speed meant nothing. Heavy rainfall turned roads into deep mud that exhausted horses and collapsed supply lines completely. And the castles. Unlike the open cities of Persia and China that fell quickly to Mongol siege tactics, Western European castle systems were built into hillsides, riversides, and mountain ridges. Each one required a long and costly siege, and there were hundreds of them. Taking Europe castle by castle would have taken decades, time and resources the Mongols could not afford at such extreme distance from home. There was also a simple logistical reality that is rarely talked about. A Mongol force of 30,000 men needed close to 150,000 horses to function at full effectiveness. Those horses needed vast open grazing land every single day. Western Europe could not provide that.
Three things ultimately kept Europe from falling. Leadership collapse. Every time the Mongols were days away from conquering Europe, a great Khan died, and the entire campaign stopped. Their empire had no stable succession system, and that weakness saved Europe repeatedly. Geography. The Mongol army was built for open grasslands. Western Europe had dense forests, muddy terrain, mountain passes, and castle systems that neutralized their greatest weapon, speed. Their horses needed vast grazing land that Western Europe simply could not provide. Overextension. Controlling an empire stretching from Korea to Hungary simultaneously was impossible. Supply lines broke, rebellions drained resources. By the time they reached Europe, they were already at the edge of what their empire could sustain. Europe did not defeat the Mongols. Europe survived them, through timing, terrain, and one man dying at exactly the right moment. Now, think about what happens if Ogedei Khan lives just 5 more years. The campaign continues. Austria falls, Germany falls. France and England, completely unprepared, face the same army that destroyed Hungary in weeks. The Renaissance never happens. The scientific revolution never happens. The entire foundation of the modern world, democracy, medicine, technology, never develops the way it did. Everything you know today traces back to one death in Mongolia in 1241. The Mongols conquered nearly everything the world had ever built. But Europe, by the thinnest possible margin, survived. And because it did, so did the modern world.
If you enjoy our video, please subscribe for more historical documentaries videos. Thank you very much.